Hello. Hi. Hola, 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 minasama. It's me. I'm live on the TV. So wait. Yeah. Apparently, the Bloomborough that I thought I had unopened was already open. And of course, because I was like, I didn't think I had two. But I thought it was unopened, so now I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll see. I just came back from an amazing weekend with my journey buddy. Mm-hmm. 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 I don't know what I'm gonna do. No, it was an amazing time. I just realized too, like I feel like every time I visit someone, like water is involved. Like last year, I went to Maine to see, or with Eve by the water. I took a boat tour to Kew Gardens with Kirsty one time on the water. Um, Went to the beach a few times this weekend. Of course, more water. And then I went on a tour around the Upper Peninsula of Michigan a few years ago with my friend and his now wife. More water. What are you? What? Sorry. I don't know why this is doing this. I feel like I can. I don't know. Let's see. Anyway. I'm not sure what I'm going to do today. I know that there are some transits happening. We're going to be coming up on a full moon Pisces lunar eclipse. Oh, this is still in August. I haven't switched it over yet. Mercury's like in Virgo now or whatever. I don't know. My plan just kind of went out the window. You know what I mean? Let's see. I did have a thought to do like back in the day. Sometimes around like a full moon, new moon, more often in a new zodiac season, I would use like the SKT. Like, what did we learn in the previous season? What is our introduction? And are some things that we can loosely expect to see in the current season? And I could do that. I mean, we've been in Virgo season for over a week now. Um, so I'll do a series of coin flips. If it's heads, that's where we'll stop. So, hey Google, flip a coin. Flip a coin, please. Girl, flip a coin. Flip a coin. Cool. Google doesn't want to listen today. So we're charting our own path. What do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. And the live deleted. Run away. It's an ICC day today, but there's no label. And so I would know the last three digits of my number, but I wouldn't know the full 4-digit number. Numbers came to mind. I was thinking of numbers. Let's reach in here. Oh, let's reach in here and see what we can see. I have been thinking of that whole fire air star situation that we had. And I don't know, for some reason today, I went on a walk and I was thinking of how it could have been Phanuel, Angel of Truth, that came out instead of whatever the angel of the void um his name is. And it could have been Phanuel, Angel of Truth, because of the whole like Phanuel waits at the throne for us to basically remember whatever it is for us to remember. But or at least Phanuel could have been the angel that came out instead of Asbiel, the angel of ruin. Now, Asbiel was in reverse, so instead of it being an angel of ruin, there was an angel of regeneration energy. And it was like some kind of divine energy that is coming back online. And with it, many things changed. One that's been ever present, but that hasn't been noticed for whatever reason. And I don't know why today. I wasn't necessarily thinking about it. It just like it's like, oh, it's interesting that like Phanuel Angel of Truth didn't come out because that's like a vibe that I've gotten from Phanuel before. So I say all that to say I could use like I'm gonna be brave. Ooh, am I? Sure, why not? Today we're going the good mystic or the good shaman. Mystical shaman and the good tarot. I kind of want to use, I don't know. I almost want to use the elemental oracle. I still have a deck that's on its way. Good news is it is now in the country instead of it being in Spain. And yes. If I just like tune into the energies. It almost feels like the seer and flow. Interesting. It almost feels like I guess you could say it's a quiet before the storm, but it feels like a dam that's like bulging. Like I don't know if it's necessarily going to burst, but something that's like brimming with potential. There's an energy that's like very full. There's an energy that feels very full, like the bulging dam, but it trickles. And it's not, I don't feel like it is like leaks that have sprung in a wall. So you're getting like tricklage. It feels like when it's released, the stream is like a lot smaller and slower than you'd expect because there's obviously so much pressure built up on the other side of it. So there's like a not a condenser, but usually when you compress flow, it speeds it up, right? A compressor in systems like air conditioners and industrial processes increase the pressure and temperature of a gas or fluid by reducing its volume and forcing its molecules together. The forcing of molecules together is interesting because that's sort of the catalytic energy that's been coming out. It's been floating around. It's like there's this thing that there are these processes that naturally occur, but because things are so spread out or disparate, you never get the things in the right time at the right place in the right way to make those connections, and the catalyst like puts it all in the same area to encourage that. But what's interesting is like it doesn't feel like a leak, but it also, with a typical compressor, there's an increase in like pressure, flow, temperature, whatever, because you're forcing more stuff into a smaller space. I guess it would just be like a tap, right? You could tap it, and then if you tap it, it just flows. It doesn't necessarily have to compress. Hmm. Jaguar 28 at the bottom of the deck. And the heart of the sky. That's an interesting combination for reasons. Completion and the gather. That's an interesting combination as well. The gather and completion means that 824 was Jaguar and Heart of the Sky. 921 is completion in the gatherer. That's roughly Virgo season. Mid or early 20s. No. Yeah. Early 20s of August, 8 to early 20s of September, 9. That's Virgo season, which is now. We're going to have opened it up with the Black Moon Virgo. Then it's the full moon Pisces lunar eclipse. Then it's the new moon Virgo solar eclipse. That happened in Cancer season. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago because it happened over the summer. No, it may have been last year because I feel like we had two new moons in Cancer and one full moon in Capricorn. Or it may have been two full moons Capricorn, one new moon Cancer. I'm almost leaning more towards that because I remember doing a video, and the part of it that I was interested in got cut off. I was live and the whole video didn't upload. Hey David, how you doing? But but the gather and completion is interesting because it feels like the sun just came out. The hunter is at the bottom of the deck. It feels like when whatever is being gathered is finished being gathered, there's like something that happens. It's also interesting that the gathering is completed before we go into harvest season. Libra, cardinal air, welcomes the fall in the northern hemisphere, the spring in the southern, right? So at the time where we would expect to start gathering, the gathering is on. So it almost speaks to an internal recognition of cycles rather than an external calendar, right? Calendar, and again, like that, the way I'm thinking about it is more of an astrological calendar. It's when the sun enters Libra, tropical. That's the first day of autumn. That's what starts harvest season. But harvest season is completed before then. So even if we follow the stars, we may miss it. which is also interesting. Like I hear so many people talk about how it feels like time is moving faster. And so with time moving faster, I don't know, maybe we shift how we engage with our own personal timing or any way that time has been cut. Like the shortest day in recorded history happened, I think, last month. Because like the Earth, and because I remembered, and then I told my journey buddy about it. 9, 10, 10 of air, and the Hermit. Um, I told my journey buddy about it, and then when I looked it up, they said it was because of things going on inside the Earth, and because of where the moon was, the Earth spun on its axis a little bit faster that day. Maybe that's why we're not reading not the season, not the eclipses. Maybe. I guess this is also the point where we switch from new moon first to full moon first. For the past minute, we've had a new moon in the zodiac season, and then it's full moon. But since we have 2 new moons in Virgo season, the first lunation of Libra season is going to be a full moon, Aries. And then we'll have the new moon, Libra. And then moving into Scorpio season, it'd be a full moon, Taurus, before the new moon, Scorpio. So I guess if we tap the thing first, we can alleviate pressure. I don't know why the flow of it was important. Or maybe it's not. Okay. So what I could do is I could have a card, right? And then I could get, okay. All right. 20 minutes later, I think I know what I'm going to do today. I think I know what we're going to do today. Emphasis on think. Because I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yes. Oh.
Oh, you already live or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my. I thought the door was locked. Oh well. Ah well. I'm using the Tarot of Dreams. I haven't used this deck in a while. I'm going to use the Tarot of Dreams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a card from. Okay. I'm going to pull a card from the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. I was like, what the heck is that? I'm going to pull a card from the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. And then I'm going to pull before and after that number from the top and or bottom. Should I do top and bottom? I'll pull it from the top of the deck. If it's a double digit number, I'll simplify. And if it gives me another double digit number, I'll do it again. So if it's 38, I'll pull the 38th, the 11th, and the 2nd. Before and after. Before, so that'll be like the wall. The card before. No, I'm going to pull those cards in the good tarot. Then in the Tarot of Dreams, I'm going to pull before and after those as significators. The card before is going to be like if we vent the pressure on the wall, like what we can expect. The card after is going to be like if it bursts or if nothing happens. We'll say if it bursts. Right? The 3 of Coins just came out. What I love about this 3 of Coins is it looks like the person is using a wand, which, just like comparatively, thematically, it could be like getting paid to do what you love. What is it? What was it? It was like job your love. Don't love your job your love. Right? That's the new, like the little meme now. I gotta make sure these are all facing the right way. Cool. Now, I'm not sure. I feel like I should have another. I feel like I should have another deck, another like Oracle deck, something. The Mystical Shaman may be enough. It is what it is, and it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. Welcome to I don't even know what it is. What it is, tarot. Where it is what it is, and it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. No matter how much we want it, sometimes it just won't be what it isn't. And sometimes it will be, regardless of how attached we are, right? What's interesting about this is, though, because of the like stars and stuff, it's like instead of using the wand to create these pinnacles, he's like using the wand. It's almost like salvaging. He's like scraping the motive spirit out of that. So if I were like sitting across the table from somebody and we're doing like a cold reading or whatever, I could be like, oh, like you may be thinking of like a career change or a pivot, something that you've once invested energy into, you're now pulling back so you can invest it somewhere else. Right? He's recovering this from that rather than like creating it, right? And that's interesting because of the completion and the gatherer. What needed to be accumulated, what needed to be gathered, it's done. And no more needs to be done. So it's not necessarily like it almost has a vibe that's like let's say there was some kind of like Easter egg hunt, scavenger hunt, but like a foraging type thing, right? And it's like there are certain things that are worth more points, and the more you contribute and the more valuable and rare your contributions, the more you get at the end, the better your prize. And so when you're participating, right, you run the risk of, like, if you come across stuff that's super common and maybe low in value, it'd be easy to gather and like quick to turn in, and then like you're done, right? If you overlook all of that stuff to go for the thing that is rare and valuable and that's like worth the most points, it's like even if you find it, then like you still have to return everything. You still have to, like, everything has to be tallied up. So you run the risk of the contribution not even being counted. And with the gathering, the completion, it's like the race is over, time is called, no more submissions are being accepted. And of course, nothing is necessarily finite, right? There is a timing and there is a season, and we learn many lessons while we're down here. Many a lesson. This is Mars, and Mars is going to be going into Scorpio at some point, right? Where is Mars? Mars was in Libra. I don't know. I don't know. We're not looking at the whatever. And what's interesting is maybe there was like a timeline that was set, but it's being called early, right? Because the gathering is completed in Virgo season. Everything has been reaped before the harvest is supposed to begin. Supposed to. Cool. Bottom of the deck is the Knight of Cups. I could just take the court cards out. I like this deck, but the court cards just like don't speak to me at all. they just they don't. Court cards are already like a little touchy for me. And so if I don't really have like an image around it, it just feels like a struggle. Okay. Mystical Shaman is shuffled. This is shuffled. That's what I'm gonna do. Do, 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 do. Cool. I think I had a dream. That brings a dream to mind. I had a dream that there was like some kind of, well, I had two dreams where there was like a race. One of them was like a scavenger hunt, like an escape room type situation. The other one was closer to the metaphor of like what's come out. And in that one, someone had like cheated. They had taken someone else's whatever and they tried to pass it off as their own. And the, what do you call them? The person, the people that oversee it, the proctors. This is the proctors, right? You like proctor a test? Proctor and anyway, the proctor was like not lenient at all. And the person's like, oh, haha, now I'm gonna win. And they very much so did not. Cool. All right, all right, all right, all right. I'm done. I'll shuffle. We're gonna cut it. We'll do a 3-cut. Why not? Tri-cut. Tri-cut the deck. Tri-cut. Tri-cut the deck. Tri-cut the cards. Cool. I'll put this here. And I'll put this here. We're gonna get a Mystical Shaman Oracle card. First, I want a clean flip or a clean fall. Bottom of the deck is Thunder, 56. 5 plus 6 is 11. So that's a 56-11 rather than the 38-11. Interesting. Rather than the 38-11 that was the example. Fire and Thunder. Fire and Thunder. Well, this is thunder and not lightning. But in quite a few of the elemental bending magic, whatever, lightning is like an advanced whatever, an advanced type within the fire realm element. Within the fire element, lightning is like, excuse me, its most powerful, or one of the more powerful forms that it can take. Now, I was listening to an audiobook, I'm pretty sure. Oh, yeah. Somebody had lightning, they used lightning magic to like cinch or to like clinch a victory or whatever, right? And they were being pushed back. It was like this royal person who was being pushed back by this humble rural person, and they were like getting embarrassed and frustrated, and they were like, oh well, I'm gonna pull out my lightning, I'm gonna finish this quick. And it was of no consequence. It was of no import. It still didn't help. And so in that, it was a matter of anticipation, because lightning is so fast, you can't, to be in a reactive state is to have already lost. And so to hold a reactive stance is to take like a losing, is to like be of a losing mindset, because it's so fast. We don't have, like, even if we had the cognitive ability to anticipate it or to see it as it's happening, would we have the physical reflex to even be able to react, right? And so again, sort of playing on that whole, like, the harvest is like, the gathering is complete before harvest season even starts. If we're tuned into the whatever of whatever, we'll sort of like see it, and we'll be able to navigate properly for whatever it is that we're navigating for, right? If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Ooh, soul retrieval. Interesting. Um, so that, like, always be prepared type energy. Corn. All right. So I want a clean flip or a clean fall, please. Every card will be its own. If there are multiple, three is the max. Three is where I draw the line. We just had, it was a flip. It was clean enough. Guess what? One of the numbers is LOLOL. Number 38 flipped over. I didn't even know it was the mystical shaman. I don't know, thought of 38. Bottom of the deck is the Rainmaker, number 42. Now, the Rainmaker came out. I feel like the Rainmaker comes out quite often in this deck. But the thing about the Rainmaker is they know why they are doing what they're doing. I just saw a reel that was like, your actions shouldn't make sense to anybody else. And it had a person that was like on a treadmill, but they were like bent down doing whatever. And it turns out they were practicing for whatever Olympic sport they play, right? And so for their purposes, it made sense. To anybody else, it wouldn't. And that's the thing with the Rainmaker. Like, anyone can shake a stick with whatever in it, or anyone can go out and dance, anyone can sing. But the Rainmaker does what they do, knowing what will be. Right? And the point of that is to say, like, it goes beyond practice, it goes beyond motions. It goes beyond movements. It even goes beyond intention, because there's some element somewhere that sort of marries everything and gets us that Three of Pentacles energy where it actually materializes, right? Now, the two cards that came out are the Rainbow and the Mystical Shaman. So we have 41, which is a 5, and there's that 3811. Cool. Nice to see ya. So these are two different walls. And I guess I'll do them both at the same time. I'll do the bigger number first, and then progressively smaller numbers. I'm going to shuffle the deck, like I'm going to lay the cards out, and then I'll just like pick them back up and keep going, question mark? Or I'll just cycle them to the back. So 38 and 41. Is this the same? I'll lay them out. I'll do what I said I was going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 1, 40. Oh, go! 42. Wait. Yeah. 41. 3. So we're at 3. 4, 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7, 4, 8, 5, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2. Goodness. Oh, golly. I don't think I thought that all the way through. Because I did them both at the same time, and I wanted to go larger and then smaller. So 11 cards from 38 plus these other cards from like 41. That's why I was trying to. I may have messed it up. I did my best. That's all anyone expects of me. Well, we have the 9 of Earth and the 3 of Earth at the cut. So the 3 of Earth was at the top of the deck. The 9 of Earth was at the bottom. What's missing is the 6 of Earth. Missing is an interesting word. We could say that what's missing is the 3 of Earth, but if you put 3 upon itself 3 times, you get 9. You could say that the 6 is missing for 3, 6, 9, but that wasn't what we were going for here. We're going for exponential. I guess we're on an exponential scale, not a multiplicative or additive scale. If we were on a multiplicative additive scale, 6 would have been next. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, rather than 3 times 3 times 3. Now, the exponential scale is a multiplicative scale, but it's different. So instead of 3 plus 3, 3 squared is like 3 plus 3 plus 3, because 3 times 3 is 3 plus 3 plus 3. I'm not trying to confuse myself. Maybe since we're working on an exponential scale instead of a multiplicative scale, that's also why the harvest, the gathering is complete before harvest season has even begun. Again, it's like with time moving faster, with days moving faster, there's something else that's also sped up. Okay. So under the mystical shaman, we have the king of air, the 8 of fire, and the hanged man. This 8 of fire card is one of my favorites. just because of the imagery. The Hanged Man is interesting. So we have the Hanged Man has feathers, right? And the King of Air has a very avian vibe. The mask has a beak, he has wings, feathered shoulders. And then in between is the Eight of Fire, which is almost giving like a will o' the wisp type energy. Now, the Hanged Man in the Wadanon Tarot is a bat. When I saw this Hanged Man, what came to mind is like bats hang upside down to help them fly easier because they don't have like the legs to fly like birds do, question mark. And so they drop and they use the momentum of gravity to get them airborne. So if they rely on the momentum of gravity, and for some reason, like if things are speeding up and they're relying on the momentum of gravity, if gravity increases for whatever reason, then it would be like an internal, it would be wise for the bat to operate on internal knowing rather than what the timing's always been. Because it's like with an increased gravitational force, things are going to be pulled to the earth faster, which means they'll fall faster. And so, if in the habit repetition of the bat being like, okay, I drop for a second and then I do whatever and I take off. If gravity increases and they hit the ground in like 0.5 seconds, they'll be 6 feet under by the time they try to like take off for flight. You know what I mean? They would have already hit the ground. So, again, it's like to take a reactive stance is to have already lost with that lightning. And we didn't even see lightning. We saw thunder, right? The speed of light, and I guess therefore lightning, at least here, is faster than the speed of sound. So if we're waiting until we hear something and the sound is after the light, the sound is after the whatever, it's going to be like to its destination and back several times before the phenomena of sound even catches the ear. Now, under the rainbow, we have the Three of Water and the Ten of Earth. This Ten of Earth is interesting in and of itself because, wait, there's kind of an 11 energy a little bit, but also because it's two fives. There's a Five of Pentacles on the left and a Five of Pentacles on the right. Right? And then the Three of Cups is a card of like coming together, community, friendship, stuff like that, right? But the Five of Pentacles is a card of like being out in the cold on your own. It's a cold world and there's no blankie or whatever, whatever the. But the Lady and the Wolf, it's almost like in their solitude, in their isolation, in their searching and longing, they found each other type of energy. But if the wolf is an aspect of the lady, then she's found herself. Cool. Now we come over here. I'm pulling before and after the King of Swords, the Eight of Wands, the Hangman, the Ten of Pentacles, and the Three of Cups. King of Swords is at the bottom of the deck with the Six of Swords right behind him. So there is no card before the King of Swords, which is interesting, which means there is no way to vent this King of Swords energy. Should I shuffle after every time I do this? Yeah. Yeah. No, yes, no, no. Yes, no. Because of that, this is going to be the only path where there is no way, because of the structure of this, just like because of the structure of the calendar and because of the structure of the clock, they don't account for those like random fluctuations, right? They're not like the atomic. I don't think even atomic clocks may have to be adjusted. I don't know. Um, like they don't account for the fact that because of the moon and earth conditions and whatever else is going on, that the earth spun a little bit quicker and we had the shortest day in like recorded history or whatever, right? Calendars, clocks, times, even the stars don't account for that, right? Now if you look at a rising sign, if you look into how the rising is calculated, maybe because I believe that's like whatever sign is on the horizon at whatever time. And if the earth is spinning faster, then it would be facing a different part of space. So that would change. But all of the external planets, like the sun being where it is, like all of that is external to earth. So it has no bearing on like what life on earth is like. It can account for external forces, but not necessarily a lived reality, right? With the knowledge of external forces, we can like guess and we can follow trends and patterns and we can look to history. But again, like none of that accommodates or accounts for the earth itself spinning faster or slower because those aren't bound to earth's rotational span. Now, is there some minute effect of that on the earth's gravity, which would then have a minute effect on where everything is? Probably, girl. I don't know. Anyway, let's just keep going. But I did like this is going to be the only card where there's no card before it. I don't know what's at the bottom of the deck, so there could be no card after one of these. But I almost thought of shuffling to give every card the opportunity to sort of like come out in the same position. But that's not how I said I'd do this. So the Seven of Wands, the World, the Eight of Coins. I'm looking for the Eight of Wands, the Hangman, the Three of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles. King of Coins, Nine of Coins, Four of Coins, Page of Swords, Judgment, Six of Cups, Ace of Coins, Queen of Cups, Queen of Coins, Ten of Swords, Faith, the Knight of Coins, Justice, Strength, King of Wands, Nine of Cups, Three of Coins, Ace of Swords, the Hangman. Before the Hangman is the Ace of Swords. After the Hangman is the Devil. Oof. I feel like that combination just like makes sense though, right? If you handle it before, if you handle it before, it's this Ace of Swords energy. If it plays out to fruition and the dam bursts, it's Devil energy. Again, I feel like that one is about as expected. Knight of Swords, the Chariot, Eight of Swords. All right, I'm looking for the Eight of Wands, the Three of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles. I just gotta remind myself. Queen of Swords, Palace of Cups, Tower, Five of Cups, Priestess, Three of Cups. Before the Three of Cups is the Priestess. After the Three of Cups is the Palace of Coins. The Three of Swords, the Ten of Cups, the Queen of Wands, Page of Coins, Seven of Cups, Eight of Wands. So before the Eight of Wands is the Seven of Cups. After the Eight of Wands is the Nine of Wands. Palace of Swords, Six of Wands, Magician, Five of Coins, Five of Wands, Nine of Swords, Two of Wands, Ace of Wands, Two of Swords, Ace of Cups, Seven of Swords, Three of Wands, Ten of Coins. So before the Ten of Pentacles is the Three of Wands, and after is the Four of Swords. We have Temperance and the Seven of Swords before the before and after. Before the final before and after the final after. Oh, wait. I want to put those here. I'll put these here. Three of Wands before, and the. I wish I had a little bit more space. A little bit more space. I don't know what that was. I'm listening to like all of these like audiobooks and stuff. What am I doing? Okay. Before. No, this was after. I'll do before. I'm going to not mix these up. Before the card, after. Before the card, after. Before the card, after. I had it vertical, and now I'm going to shift it horizontal. So it's wider than it is long to get this in a way that I get some space. The Palace of Coins was after. Where's the other card? Did I pull it? Am I going to have to rewind the video? Or is it just lost? Four of Swords was after. The Three of Wands was before. What was before the Three of Cups? I know the Priestess. Where's the Priestess? That was after. This is the card. That was before. And this was the bottom. The Nine of Wands, the Eight of Wands, and the Seven of Cups. It was Nine of Wands after, the Eight of Wands in the middle, and then the Seven of Cups before. And there was no card before the King of Air. So the Priestess, interesting. Because of how I put the cards away, the Priestess ended up before the King of Swords, where there was no card there. So instead of it being before the Three of Cups, it ended up being before the King of Swords. So I guess in a way we could say it bridged the Three of Cups and the King of Swords due to Patrick error. Cool. Boom. Got it. All right. What am I doing with this? So the mystical shaman. there are three areas, I guess, where the mystical shaman, the dam that is the mystical shaman, is bulging at the seams. Well, there are many. Three places of interest, only two of which can be tapped. Or um, maybe the King of Swords has already been tapped, right? There are two remaining spots. One of them is the Eight of Wands, the other is the Hanged Man. The spot of the Hangman is the easiest to read because the thing about the Hangman was, again, if the Hangman relies on its own internal functionings, it will catch the shift in gravitational forces and it will fly before it hits the ground. Right? That's why if it's caught in time, it's this Ace of Swords, the Ace of Swords being a knowing. And if not, it's this devil energy. Now, what's interesting about the actual card is not only is there some fancy clockwork, whatever, two things actually. The Hangman exists off planet, meaning it's not in the mechanism. It can observe, like it observes the mechanism. It's also interesting that there's the tattoo of like the sun on its back. See, and then there's like mechanical Earth with its ring of like zodiac signs around it. Not to put Hangman Booty all up in the camera, but you know. And this is Neptune. Neptune is about to retrograde back into Pisces. Saturn's already done it, or so I've heard. And I also love that with this Ace of Swords, it's looking skyward. This Ace of Swords is interesting, though, because it feels like if anyone else were to look at this Ace of Swords, then the Ace of Swords would appear to be like if this Ace of Swords were a person like, oh, they think they're better than everybody else because like their nose is always to the sky. But it's an energy of like a different vantage point, we'll say. It speaks to higher uh, functionings and it's devil energy on the other side because it's all of the ways that like there are so many beliefs that are given to us to liberate us, to free us, to be the salvation or to guide us towards the salvation that we need. But we kind of like human it all up and we can sometimes fixate on the wrong things. Right. And there are, it's, I've been also thinking lately about the world. And I remember when everyone was like, oh, the age of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. And it's like, well, on paper, if you look at the age of Pisces, it was supposed to be beautiful. You have so many teachings all over the world that are basically like love one another and be kind. And somehow, in the humanity of it all, we have used beliefs of love to create hierarchies and to justify all kinds of stuff and have no cognitive dissonance about it at all. Right? Like have no qualms about like I believe in love and I believe in all of this, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if that were the truth, it's like, we believe what we believe and we do what we do. And we can beliefs and we can do whatever. And regardless of how much contradiction or paradox there may be in our minds, we don't see it. Right. So I was like, well, if that happened to the age of Pisces and like the age of Aquarius, like Aquarius is ruled by Uranus modernly and like Saturn traditionally. And with the view of Saturn being what it is, how is like whose salvation is Uranus? And I was like, well, hopefully it's not an age of just like endless rebellions and stuff like that, because that's the energy of Uranus. And then hopefully we don't have to wait until the age of Capricorn to actually start building. And then, of course, to see like so much of what's happening all over the world. And then sometimes for the attitudes to be what they are, it's like, I don't know. I hope it's not however long an age of Aquarius is of like all of this. But anyway, like that's that devil energy. Even when the belief is all about love or all about whatever, somehow in our free will and in our genius, we find ways to not be loving while convincing ourselves that we are. I think that devil energy is also, it's a surrendering of power, it's a surrendering of control, it's a surrendering of so much by not taking accountability or by making something external to us that doesn't have the power to do much of anything but bluster. Like it's us sort of submitting ourselves to it. And again, it's almost like you could say it's a battle of knowledge, and the Ace of Swords is here. Um, like it makes me think of, I heard somewhere, so take it with a grain of salt, but it applies in the instance where I'm bringing it up, that it was like Columbus had landed somewhere, I think on a Caribbean island, and he demanded like food and shelter and whatever from the locals, and they said no. And he like cursed them that in 2 or 3 days the moon would turn. Oh well, I guess we're coming up on a lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, so it makes sense that the moon would turn like a blood red, and that would be the sign that they were cursed. And of course, like the moon turned that blood red, but not because of any power that Christopher Columbus had, just because Columbus knew that like, oh, like a lunar eclipse is coming, and this is something that I can use potential, like this is something that I can use if they don't know. And I guess they didn't know because they didn't. And so that's like devil energy was able to use that knowledge even though it had no control over anything. But it was able to act like it did, right? But your intuition, again, like your intuition, your discernment, your presence will alert you to some of this. And we have whatever capability we have to look and discern the truth of a thing. Right? So that's the path of the hanged man. To see the play beyond the play, to be aware of the greater movements of things. And of course, once you become aware of those greater movements, you'll know. That's why we have this Ace of Swords. And if not, it'll be this whole like, well, nobody ever said this, nobody said that. like the reader didn't whatever, the people who were doing whatever, like nobody mentioned this, or like no one told me that, like whatever. Now the second path is the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands is flanked by the Seven of Cups and the Nine of Wands. So we do have a 9-8-7 or a 7-8-9, but the element switches from water to fire here, and it's consistent in fire. Now, almost along the lines of that hangman, almost, because this is between water and fire. I know in Vedic astrology, there's the concept of Gandanta. I saw a video years ago, and I barely watched it because it was in Vedic. But Gandanta is when something moves from the water element to the fire element. Gandanta. It's the junction points in the zodiac that well, Gandanta is the junction points in the zodiac that are particularly connected times of soul growth. In Vedic astrology, Gandanta refers to volatile transition points where the water signs end and the fire signs begin, marked by specific nakshatras and degrees. These points signify significant transformation, representing challenges and opportunities to release old patterns similar to an unraveling knot, and require careful observation in a birth chart. Now, because Saturn and Neptune are going from Aries to, well, tropical, and tropical, they're going from Aries back into Pisces. It's like a reverse Gandanta sort of interaction. Instead of water to fire, it's going fire back to water. But the thing that came to mind is in the Tarot Apocalypsis, it's maybe it was in like the Jewish Kabbalah. Um, it's like the whole concept of heavenly fire is water on earth, right? And that's the part where that hangman energy kind of comes in. Because if we know, like, okay, in the higher realms, this is the element of fire, but as it plays out on earth, it's water. Depending on what what the conversation is and like what's happening, maybe we have to keep that in mind, right? If we are told fire, but we need water because it operates across that transition point, right? Between the spiritual, energetic, and material, ethereal, and the physical, material, dense reality, then we make corrections like accordingly, right? Now, on the dam bursting of it, it's like we meet fire with more fire. On the tapping and alleviation of this, we meet the fire with water. And because of the Seven of Cups, it gives us an aspect of choice, right? And that is a benefit of like being proactive rather than reactive. When we are reactive, we our brain, like we don't have the space, the time, the capacity to really consider our options unless we operate extremely well under pressure. If we do, then right, we'll be more aware of our options. But in a proactive sense, in an anticipatory way, especially if there is enough observation that gives enough time, you can consider your options. So now, rather than making like the best of a bad situation, or rather than minimizing damage, or rather than like what do you call it? The thing where like people make apologies, or they try to like not cover it up, but rather than doing damage control, the mystical shaman energy gets to find ways to like for that to be a benefit. right? And so that's a making the most of a bad situation that actually creates something like bountiful and abundant and prolific, rather than making the most in a bad situation being like trying to choose the least terrible path. Now, this Nine of Wands is interesting because he's seated. The Nine of Wands is also interesting because he's got a cut on his arm. And I would assume that it's pretty difficult to get a cut from another wand or from another stave, right? The cut comes from a sword. Now, there are people who are proficient with whatever tools they're proficient with. And it's almost like typically you wouldn't engage swords with wands because it's like taking a knife to a gunfight. So that would be like a position of clear disadvantage. Um, but I guess since that's the energy, we'll just stick there, or we'll stick with that, right? Again, because it's reactive. So rather, like if it were proactive or anticipatory in any way, then whoever's in the Nine of Wands would have been able to prepare better for like intercepting a sword or for engaging swords, right? It's almost like they reach for the wand because the wand is there, right? It's like if there's some kind of in like a house invasion situation and there's like a baseball bat that you grab the baseball bat because it's there. Sometimes it's placed intentionally there, but it's like if you knew what you were dealing with, you could have, excuse me, whatever, right? Now, it's interesting that the Eight of Wands would come out as a potential access point because it has so much momentum behind it. Again, with the fire and thunder, with that fire and lightning, the Eight of Wands, we would assume like moves so quickly that there wouldn't be time to intercept it if one weren't expecting it. And maybe that just plays on not only the quickening of things, not only the a seasonality of something, um, but also again that like when we're in a reactive, well, when we have a reactive stance, then we sort of make the best of whatever. And what's also interesting about it is because like Hangman energy is here, and King of Swords energy is even here. There's almost a question of like reliable information. The Iron card kept coming out in the What Unknown Alchemy. I think it's associated to Mars. No, Iron is Saturn, right? Anyway, I think it's Saturn actually. I forget what. No, Saturn is lead. Anyway, there's a line in the book that says it's a time to rely on only what is reliable. And with the whole Hangman Devil energy versus Hangman Ace of Swords energy, that's finding out how reliable something is or wasn't. But the thing is, there are some situations, circumstances, instances where an excuse only gets us so far, right? Where the whole like, well, this said this or that said whatever. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's no excuse. In the court of the mystical shaman, where we all have a conscience and a heart and a soul, even if something isn't illegal, like it's like the whole like, if you're hurting someone, like just because we think we can get away with, again, that's the whole, like what the age of Pisces could have been versus what it actually was. And that's a human thing, right? All of the books, all of the scriptures, all of the gurus, guides, and mentors said love. All of the gods, well, most of them, I guess, said love. And it's human to hold a doctrine of love and follow a doctrine of love, but still choose so much bigotry and hatred and violence, or to be so withholding of where that love goes and what it looks like. Anyway, what I do like about this Nine of Wands, though, is that it's like he's cut, but it doesn't look like a serious injury. It's not green. He's not like losing his mind, right? He's just seated there, like, wow. Now, if we look at the cards, see, maybe this plays on that rely only on what is reliable. If you follow the will o' wisps in the woods, unless you got a great relationship with the nature spirits, that's a risk and that's a gamble. They guide some, they guide all. Some of them they guide to their destination. Some of them they guide deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest. But it's like with the birds here, and with this like alignment of the 8 wands, the 3 of wands is here. The 3 of wands is another preemptive tapping, right? Because it's this 3 of wands here, 3 of wands there, and then the 2 wands at the top. It's like this 3 on top of 3. So again, we had the priestess that kind of bridged to that king of swords. We have this 3 of wands that's thematically bridging this one to the 10 of coins. It's like the birds above the clouds. This is reliable. This, it depends. It's less globally reliable, but we all have our own individual experience as well, right? Not everyone can necessarily rely on them because they can be a little tricky. And maybe it speaks to what it is that we truly want or desire, or what, like, motivations, what frequencies support what it is that we claim to want and desire, and how in tune we are with those things, right? Because we could say we want one thing, but in actuality we want another, and we may not even be aware. And the will of the wisps are going to play on what, like, there's like an almost amorality to it. It's like if they guide you to your heart's truest desires, and we think we desire one thing and we get led somewhere else, and we get upset because we don't think, in fact, we know that whatever isn't what we truly wanted. We truly wanted whatever, but anyway, it's a time to rely on only what is reliable. Even the mystical shaman itself, like that hanged man, it's like it's able to put distance between something and to observe it from an outside perspective. And it's like being on Earth, that fraction of a second, or whatever it was, shorter that the day was, like it was, I'll say, nearly imperceptible to most. Maybe there's somebody out there that could feel the rotation that was whatever fraction of whatever faster, because I'm sure there's somebody out there. But it's like if you would observe it from a distance, it would be easier to see from a distance than it would be to like feel, which is kind of interesting because in the practice of presence and with so much emphasis in the now moment, it's like in the now moment you would never know that it's happening, because the now moment is always that moment. There is no past and there is no future, so there is no comparison. There is no faster and there is no slower, because there is only whatever this is right now. And again, it's just like, it's not that anything is necessarily right or anything is necessarily wrong, but it's about being sort of like aware, I guess, of circumstances, being aware of factors and influences. Now, the King of Swords, they actually look like they could be the same person, question mark. But the King of Swords, oh, but that makes sense. It's like the King of Swords is a younger, more immature version of the King of Air. And it makes sense in the way of like, beyond the tool, beyond the manifestation is the element. This is the king of the manifestation. This is the king of the element. Air manifests as the sword, which again kind of sort of plays on that whole like heavenly fire is water on earth. Like being aware of like, okay, like this, whatever I'm receiving, is this like a earth to earth? Is this like a immaterial to material? Are we doing some kind of Gandanta stuff where like we're crossing some kind of threshold or boundary? So as things that as they like compress, not compress, condense, like with the condenser, as they condense and become more solid and less airy, then like this is what it's like up there, or does it have enough energy that it's like just floating in the cloud somewhere? Whatever the access point is for the king of air, that's like title card energy, because it feels like the king of swords, although he is the master of his aspect, although he is the master of his element, manifested element, he is yet to become the master, or although he is the master of the tool, the manifestation, he is yet to master the element, the energy, master of the blade, but not yet the air. The king of air would be able to see and interact in a way to tap this, or to have not like never ended up in the situation, to have diverted whatever flow before the dam is like about to like burst, right? Now, the Six of Swords sort of being on the side of like, well, if it's not tapped or addressed, this is an energy of like, whatever will be, right? Things will just proceed in the way in which they proceed. Life is going to, like, the world keeps turning type of energy, right? If if the gathering is completed in Virgo season and we show up at the top of Libra season bright and early because that's the start of the harvest and there's nothing left to harvest, and that's kind of like a, oh well, I guess I'm going to go to another place. I guess I'm going to try to go somewhere else, or I guess we're just not going to have whatever this season, and when winter comes we'll figure it out type energy. The Six of Swords could also be indicative of whatever this transition transformation process is, as this king goes from the master of the sword to the master of air. It could sort of like signify that transition. There we go, like that. Now, if this is the case, I would say that maybe that's like a space of sacred journeys. That's between you and the divine. That's between you and like whatever is happening in your life and your personal development. Again, it's that same title card energy where it's like not necessarily anyone else's business. It's your journey and it's between you and God and you and your spirit crew or you and your creator. I'll say that. All of that falls under the path of the mystical shaman. So, in a lot of ways, it makes sense, right? First, we had the hangman that sees deeper and further and doesn't get caught up in the situationality of everything, that can take that step back and see the grander design. Because it's like, again, astrologically, that is like part of the grand design, but it's like there's a picture beyond that, or there are worlds of knowing that exist beyond that. And for us, the mundane, that in and of itself is can be extremely esoteric. But for those that live in the divine realms, that's as mundane as earth is to us, right? Because even those things are constructs. And so there must be concepts that precede even those. The other path is in the happening. And that happening, it's that condenser. And either we are proactive enough in whatever way that we can influence the outcomes of certain things. So, like, where we truly co create, where it's a version of co creation where it's like we order the materials versus a version of co-creation that's like, well, here's everything, like here's all the materials, go wild, create whatever you want, right? It's just a different sort of level of involvement. And again, that was the whole fire, water, heavenly fire, water on earth. And then there was the one who is coming into a mastery, again, kind of like the hangman, kind of like the first one, coming into a mastery that's beyond the 3D physical expression of the thing. On the path of the rainbow, we have the Three of Wands and the Four of Swords that flank this Ten of Earth, Ten of Pentacles, Ten of Coins, which is actually Mercury in Virgo, but we're in Ten of Pentacles energy right now. Cool, love it. What's interesting about this Three of Wands is that right there. You see the solar motif on the sail? It looks like the very same thing, the tattoo on the back of the hangman. And again, the hangman is outside of the whole thing. And this is coming like in this burst of angelic light, right? Coming from beyond this dimension or whatever you want to call it, from the realm of the hangman. This is where it's seen and observed. That's where it sort of comes from. Reminds me of, was that Gelio? Was it Gelio that spoke to? But it's the energy of the things that exist energetically. before they materialize physically. Now, what's interesting about this is the path of the rainbow. I mean, both of the cards came out. So, like, it's almost like it's almost like that Enochian, Elijah energy, the Sandalphon, Metatron, right? Because this person is at the top of the cliff, way beyond the clouds, above even the clouds. And it's almost like maybe they reached a certain completion, or they felt like they reached a completion, and this almost like, okay, like, but what now? And all of a sudden, this golden arc sort of comes in that expands their world even more. And on the other side, it's this Four of Swords. We see this helmet of silver and a helmet of gold. Moon in Sagittarius, sextile Jupiter in Libra. Between the Nine of Wands and the Four of Swords, typically the Four of Swords is a card of healing, but it's like this person's heart has been pierced. And there's Four of Swords energy. If I read this, there's almost an energy to this that's like the Ten of Pentacles is a card of families and dynasty. But it's like there was this couple who ended up separated. One of them expansive goes beyond, the other sort of quote unquote stuck, but only because of like what they can't let go of. Or because of what they've experienced in the past. So, in a way, it is almost an energy of forfeiture. Because again, we're human. And sometimes when self sabotage is real, sometimes there are some things that no matter how much we want, we just can't overcome because of the things that we have to face in order to do so. Right. So that's where having a good therapist and a great support system and an amazing relationship with the divine to support you, to help you, to guide you through those things that create the biggest blockages and barriers. Because it's almost like until they're faced, those walls will never come down. It's like things take the path of least resistance to get to us. But even on the paths of least resistance, we hold so much that it makes every encounter brief and fleeting. And especially when we involve an external energy, even the energy of abundance, it's something that we hold, but it's it interacts and engages with the whole world. It's like a fully immersive, connects to every aspect of the experience, right? And this is an energy here with the Three of Wands that will not be like everything that this energy needed to overcome, it has. naked, not even covered up, right? We assume that they're naked under the sheet, but there are still the things that they cover and protect and hide. There's still the shame that they feel where there should not be any. This energy will not, it's like as much as this energy can't face whatever, this one cannot be bound or limited. It cannot be held back. And maybe it speaks to that's an opposition. We just had a sextile. Did I read that wrong? I said something in Sagittarius sextile. Did I say Sun in Sagittarius sextile Jupiter in Libra? This is an opposition. Sun in Aries opposing Jupiter in Libra. So, of course, they've split up. And Jupiter in Libra is an energy, especially here. It's an energy that relies, it almost like relies on everybody else for it to move forward. Kind of like herd immunity, right? Herd immunity is basically where everyone else's immunity or immune system is strong enough that something can't come in and proliferate, right? So even if you have no immunity or like a compromised immunity to something, if everyone else around you is immune, then it makes it significantly less likely that you'll come in contact because you'd have to be like literally patient zero, right? Rather than getting it from somebody who got it from somebody else, who got it from somebody else, who got it from somebody else. Like, and maybe that's why this Jupiter in Libra is this kind of Four of Swordsy, like that. The Ace of Swords is still piercing their heart, so they can't fully heal from this. And if the heart does heal, the heart heals around the sword to the point where if it's removed, it could be fatal because everything is healed around it. And that's what also makes it trickier. That's what makes it even harder to overcome whatever. But this Jupiter in Libra that's opposing the Sun in Aries is almost, again, it's like relying on everyone else to do something so that it never has to. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That relies on everyone else wanting what it is that this Jupiter and Libra energy wants, right? It's like if you don't have a means to get anywhere, like you don't have a bus or you don't have a bike or a car or whatever. And so you're relying on some, like everybody else, like, hey, like if you're going wherever, can I go with you? If you need to go to the library and no one ever goes to the library, then you're never going to get to the library. Right? With that Jupiter and Libra, we're constantly waiting on or relying on someone or something else to establish a momentum or to create something. Then that's like the risk that we sort of take. Because maybe they will, maybe they won't. Oh, it was these two. It was Moon in Libra, Moon in Sagittarius, sextiling Jupiter in Libra. Because the helmet of silver and the helmet of gold, which are the two keys of the Hierophant. But the two keys of the Hierophant here are split between the Nine of Wands, the guy who took a rod to a sword fight, And this Four of Swords, the one that is forever wounded. Because they're so deeply scarred. Maybe it waits for an opportunity that will never arrive. Because even with the moon in Sagittarius trying the sun in Aries, this Nine of Wands eventually has to climb the stairs. That's how the person gets to the top of this cliff, gets to the top of the mountain. Not only do they climb the stairs, but they also shed their armor. And if you just sit there, like, you'll never get here. And depending on the vessel, it may not be able to meet us where we are. Right? If you are taking a bus somewhere, the bus isn't going to pick you up from the couch. So at the very least, you'll probably have to go outside. If not, make your way to a bus station. Unless, even if you were driving yourself, you got to get in the car. And so maybe that's because this Ten of Pentacles has a portal type energy. And again, this is this two, I forgot about that. This is a 5-5 Ten of Pentacles. It's Five of Pentacles on both sides. Maybe we've experienced both sides of the dynamic, right? Maybe at some point we've been the one who couldn't move on because of all of our attachments. And at other points, we've been the one that's had to move on because we couldn't be stuck or stagnant or anchored in a place that wasn't for us. And so maybe after experiencing both or multiple dynamics or sides of a whatever, we find that Goldilocks sweet spot, right? The just right, rather than the too hot or too cold. There is something special about whatever comes next, though. Oh, look, there's even two faces. And we got two people on either side. Now, yeah. Right? There's the face on the wall here, and then there's that guy, and there's a face on the wall there, and then that one. In this Ten of Earth, when the wolf and the lady meet, there's something like completely new that this opens up. So we see like this open portal here, and also we see this extra dimensional vessel that's sort of coming in. Cool. Also, the lady has wings, fairy wings, butterfly wings. They're like really translucent. And so, like, I didn't even see them at first. I just saw this. I saw the lady and the wolf, and then I just noticed her wings, which is what, again, in the whole Enoch is Metatron, Elijah is Sandalphon of it all. At the top of the mountain, when the ship comes in, now they can fly. Now they ascend above, beyond. Now they get their wings, their angel wings. And it's almost like in the angelarium of it all, it's like that was what was supposed to happen. Right? But instead, in real Karukian mythos, the Angelarium is the story of like the angels were here and everything was cool until people got like weird and like started to covet the power or the whatever of the angels. And of course, you could take the perspective of like, well, of course, people got like jealous and weird and tried to take the power for themselves because these beings were so far beyond them. Like, how could they be anything but jealous? And it's like, sure. But also, there are those who kind of sort of like learned, truly learned. And then rather than trying to claim or steal or whatever through coveting something of another, they overcame what was for them to overcome. And in that inspiration, with that guiding hand, they found their own wings. And they didn't have to clip someone else's to get there. And maybe that's, again, a part of this Four of Swords energy. With that Jupiter and Libra, it is a matter of the self. It is nothing that can be done by anyone else. It is nothing that can be taken from anyone else. The caterpillar can't steal the wings of a butterfly and expect to go anywhere. The caterpillar can steal the wings of the butterfly, and the caterpillar can throw themselves off the cliff. But those wings may not work. But of course, the caterpillar, it's fine. It's fine. We don't have to go all the way into it. This is what leads to not a life of disappointment, but this is like what kills a belief in magic, you could say. It's the sword that we never sort of pull out. It's the ways that we are completely vulnerable and naked, but we still like cover ourselves through armor or whatever else. We still obstruct. Now, the Three of Cups in the rainbow, we have the Three of Water. The Three of Cups is interesting because we don't see any people in this Three of Cups. We only see two masks. And then there's the Three of Water. The Three of Water is this like root, crown, heart type situation. There's something here that I can't really see. It's this energy of like a shadow in the night where you can almost like make out the outline of something, but it camouflages, blends in so well to its background that it's nearly impossible to like discern. But something's there. And the mask is off. It's almost Sylvanius Mask of Truth energy, almost in the Fairy Oracle. But it's more. There's like in a superhero movie, whatever. There's someone that has the power of invisibility, but it's like an invisibility that they can't turn off. So you only know that they're there if they're wearing like clothes, right? This is an energy that we would only see if it's wearing the mask because we would see the mask. But when the mask comes off, it's like invisible or indistinguishable. That's why the energy of the priestess is here. The priestess is sensitive, is intuitive, is clear or clear sighted enough that the priestess would be able to see that without the mask, but it would be invisible to anybody else. And maybe that speaks to, again, in the at the top of the video, when I was talking about how today I was like, well, why wasn't Vanuel, the angel of truth, the one that came out, rather than like Asbiel, the angel of ruin, or rather than the angel of the void? Because Vanuel has the real Karukian connotation of waiting, right? Not necessarily in a way that we know that Vanuel is there, but again, in that energy of like something that's always been there, but without the mask, we'd never see it. Almost as if there were an angel, kind of like the devil, which is like a fallen angel that is whose agenda is like the collapse of mankind or the fall of mankind from God's favor. If there was an angel or an aspect of God that like visited Enoch and visited Metatron, it's like the angel of ascension, you could say. It's the angel that meets those at the mountaintop and that ferries them to the realm of beyond where they get their own wings. So the Archangel Commander would be like a precursor to this energy. Right? And the mass that we see now is all of the ascension, whatever that goes on now. Again, that is not that it falls in line with so much of the energy that was the age of Pisces. It's another thing that is meant to make us more loving and compassionate and caring and, spiritual bypassing is and was a thing. There are so many who just aren't privy to the love and light that some of the light workers had to share in the past. It's different now and it will continue to be different then. But it's almost like a truer path. And it has no face. I almost wonder if it's an energy that's like to try to capture it is to inherently taint it, to put a word to it, to because it's like it can't be, it's like you can't teach someone to be a good person. At some point, we just like are or we aren't. It's the whole Santa Claus thing, right? If there's a whole message of like, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout because Santa Claus is coming to town. And if you want presents on Christmas, be good for goodness sake. Well, you, it's hard to be good for goodness sake when you know that if you're good, you're going to get presents from Santa, right? At what point are we just being good so that we can get presents from Santa? At what point is like a Christian, for example, being a good person because they're trying to get into heaven, but their heart is anything but? Then it all becomes performative. It's like, and none of it actually sinks into the heart. No, it's good for others that there are people who are doing good people, right? Because the people who benefit from the generosity and the charity, like they still need what they need, but for the person, It's like, well, we're not truly doing. It's like, spoiler alert, The Good Place. Spoiler alert, there's a person in The Good Place who so much of their life was like philanthropy, but they didn't do any of that. Like, they only did any of that to be recognized or to be seen. Like, they did it all selfishly, right? If we're good for presence rather than being good for goodness sake, it's hard to get anything but coal. Because again, like, I think it was this Eight of Wands energy that speaks to the like a heart's truest desire that would react to like selfish motivation rather than the selfless giving. Anyway, and maybe that's why it's the Palace of Coins on the other side, because as higher minded as this as we can be, it's still for like earthly gain. It's interesting that it came out as the rainbow. I guess the rainbow is a symbol of God's promise, right? And especially after the Santa Claus of it, it's like, and I think this came, I'm pretty sure it was in that Eight of Wands energy, where it's like the intentions and the motivations also matter. It's beyond just appearances. And again, it makes it hard to not be performative, which is why, like, there are certain, what's not for me isn't for me, and what I desire, I desire. There is a particular path in mind. I'm not gonna, we ain't gotta go there. There's a particular path in mind that I don't desire. And because I don't desire it, it is not for me. Could I? Sure. I mean, I did it for a point in time. And it's just like, it's, again, it's not what I desire. So it's not a path that I take. And I've seen or I've witnessed some on that path, and it can become incredibly difficult to separate one aspect from another. So then at what point, because there come points in times where it becomes more about one thing and less about the other thing. And then as soon as that happens, it opens up doors into all kinds of what is the most profitable, what is going to line, like what's going to make my pockets and wallet the fattest. It goes beyond, and again, like maybe it starts as, a means of like support and of like acknowledgement and to like make ends meet or whatever. But it can be such a slippery slope because the conflicts of interest. And I guess ultimately that's kind of what it's about. It's about those conflicts of interest. I know I say this all the time, not all the time, There's the one teenager who just became a saint. Actually, maybe Reem shared it on. I think Reem did share it on her story, The Rare Gazelle, with Kuan Yin, who is basically prolonged her ascension so that she could help people. Right? There's a few. Like I'm pretty sure those are the bodhisattvas that reach the top of the mountain and that dedicate their efforts to helping others reach that before they get on that ship themselves. Right. So it becomes like a partial process, really. A different process. I'm not going to say partial. It becomes a different process. And maybe that's because the face of this thing is invisible. Not only can anyone else dress something up because its face isn't known, but we can also project any face on top of it. And maybe I think that kind of plays into that the devil energy with the hangman. Darkness into darkness, the key to all mystery. Is that the Two of Cups, Abyssus, Abyssum, and Mokant? The depths of you call to the depths of me. The abyss within you calls to the abyss within me. One of red, one of blue. Also, again, with that whole Heavenly Father, Heavenly Fire, Water on Earth energy, that priestess at the border in between that can see both. And it becomes so. You could say there's a fine line, but it kind of isn't. And it's not because of, you could say because of integrity and intentions and motivations. Cool. It's almost like there's an energy of like a stargazer, right? And the planets are mirrors. And so we can look up at the sky and we can see all these different mirrors to get so many different perspectives on what is going on Earth. And again, sort of with that devil energy, using that information, we can manipulate events and circumstances. But with that hanged man energy that goes into the Ace of Swords energy, excuse me, it's like it's possible to gaze up at the stars and to see beyond the mirror that are the constellations in the sky, to perceive the truths beyond the truths, the concepts behind the constructs. And again, that's indicative of the King of Air rather than the King of Swords. The King of Swords, you could say, would be trapped or limited by this Palace of Coins. Good for presence. The King of Air that went beyond is in this priestess sort of realm. Just beyond the mechanisms, machinations, and the stars that encode them. And again, like I feel like there's nothing inherently wrong or bad about anything here, but it's like the clearer we can be, maybe the better we'll understand. Because I don't know where the delineations and the designations of like functions lie, right? For the purpose of manipulation, um, maybe there are different levels of access than for the purpose of whatever other thing, right? I feel like I don't have a good metaphor for it. It's like with business fairness laws, right? Like, let's say that you are privy to a certain amount of information or have a certain amount of influence, right? And it's almost like, in a way, that is fair because it ain't all like insider trading or whatever is a thing and it happens. But it's like, well, if your goal is to like make money, then there are limitations on the information that you are allowed to know and or the ways that you're able to manipulate certain outcomes, right? But if you aren't in the market and like if you have no investment in the market, then of course it's like you're privy to more information and you can get into different rooms to like know the play behind the play behind the play because you're not trying to use that information for personal financial gain. And it's like when it comes to personal financial gain, that's when certain statutes and rules and regulations must be sort of followed, right? So in the metaphor that is this, it's like this isn't someone who goes to the top of the mountain to get their wings to from the highest place just flood their bank account with money and to basically be God on earth. But outside of that, and again, those are like the limitations of this palace of coins. Outside of that, if your goals, ambitions, motivations lay beyond that, then maybe the divine divulge more. And then it enters this priestess territory. Because just like the divine gives us free will, there are certain statutes in place so that we leave free will, leave space for free will for each other. Now, of course, there are people who do all kinds of stuff to infringe upon the free will of another, but even those are like limited, right? It's almost like, let's say you have someone for whatever reason that is like really attached to a particular person, and that person had some kind of akashic gift or knowing. And it's like, if that person would use their akashic gift to rewrite the story of another or to interfere in the story of another, then their akashic access is limited because that falls within the palace of coins. And in life there is free will, and so there are certain limitations and restrictions that are in place, right? But if the person didn't have that, then it's like they would be granted greater access because that line, it's like that line wouldn't be crossed. And again, that plays into that whole like it's kind of a thin line, but it really isn't because of motivation and intention and stuff of that nature. right? Cool. All right. Well, whatever that was, that's what it is. Again, I had no expectations today. So, what time is it? What? It ain't 10 o'clock at night. Cool. I'm still anticipating a certain deck, and I don't even know if I remember. I know there were a few things I wanted to do. Um, Temperance and the Seven of Swords. Again, these were the cards. Temperance and the Seven of Swords, the Three of Earth. We see this Three of Earth again, and the Rainmaker. Behind the Rainmaker. Wow. Well, apparently the video froze. So I think I'm just going to remove you. Video phone, video. Oh, let's going live. Going live. Okay, it says I'm live. I had to disconnect and reconnect twice. I just looked over at the TV and I saw that I was frozen. Well, it was actually frozen on this screen too. And usually it'll say, "Oh, let me do one of these real quick." What? The hello? This is so weird. So I think I'm still live. For some reason, um, this isn't working. Oh, girl, can I do? Wait, let me try this. I'm gonna try this. Oh, we are in uncharted territory. I'm gonna close OBS and open it back up because for some reason my webcam is stuck. So maybe I was still live and my webcam just got stuck. I don't know. I'm not sure. Up now OBS isn't responding. It's fine. It's cool. I think you can still hear me. I could turn the TV up so I could see. Yep. I heard it. I heard it. Let's get these final cards and then say good night. I've been so like whistly and singy these past few days. I went to the drive-in with my journey buddy, drive-in movie theater. And I know when we went in, I was like whistly, but she said I was like whistly before then. And since then, I've just been like, well, I was whistly, but now I'm also like singy. So the same song of life. Cool. Let's get these final cards. Let's get these final cards. Get these final cards. So I guess we got a claim flip. Oh, girl, what's this? The Nine of Swords and the Nine of Coins just came out. This is Venus in Virgo, square, Mars in Gemini. What in the Lady Macbeth? What in the Lady Macbeth is this? I don't know, girl. Bottom of the deck is the Two of Cups. This is an energy of karma. Right, and like that's the Two of Cups of it. If some Macbeth type stuff happened so that Macbeth became the Duke or the Lord or whatever, then Macbeth is going to get what's coming to him, right? And in like the age of Pisces, sort of devil energy of it all, um, sometimes with the energy of prophecy, what is ours. And if in our haste, in our impatience, in our right, in our entitlement, if we transgress, we open ourselves up for some kind of correction or to be transgressed against. Right? Cool. If shady stuff is done to get whatever, wherever, then hey, maybe I don't know. What is it? Some that saying that's like it's your like you made your bed, now you have to lie in it, right? So just make a bed that you want to sleep in every night comfortably, and you'll have nothing to worry about. You will have nothing to worry about. Cool. That was strangely dark. On the other hand, another way to read that would be maybe someone is coming into, have found themselves in, or yeah, coming into or have found themselves in a place of relative abundance. So stability and security, and maybe things are going really great. And maybe that Nine of Swords energy is a fear that like the other shoe is going to drop. Are you serious? Can you still hear me? Okay, so apparently you can hear me, but the camera just I don't know, the camera keeps freezing. Hello? Maybe that's a fear that the other shoe is going to drop. And or like things are too good to be true and it's not. In that case, the Two of Cups would be an energy of like alignment and resonance and like this is what you've worked for. You put in the work, you have a solid foundation, and you don't need to worry about like losing anything or everything. And eventually, it's like you don't, it's just like if that is the case, be open to it. Sometimes in life, when there are great transitions, there are also adjustments, and allow yourself to adjust, right? Eventually, you're going to sink into the fact that whatever is your reality and the worry and the anxiety will fade away, right? So that could be that like um not necessarily that like never let them see you sweat type of whatever, but maybe it's just like, you're in a fairly good spot in life and maybe that's new for you or maybe it's recent and you're just a little bit worried about like whatever. So while you are letting yourself adjust, maybe I should just turn the camera off. Hello? While you are letting yourself adjust, also don't be afraid to do whatever that calls to you. So I'll probably just ended that other live or like rebooted it for no reason. My camera just froze for some reason. I don't know why the camera is starting to stick. Oh, that was a smooth flip. We just got a clean flip. Who is it? The Ace of Water. Okay. The Ace of Water in this deck is a seahorse. Bottom of the deck is Strength. This is interesting. If this is building off of the second interpretation of the Nine of Coins and Nine of Swords, you could be called to a greater stage, or maybe you are going to be seen or visible in some way that you weren't necessarily before. Maybe it's like an imposter syndrome type, whatever, or it's just another stage. And what's interesting about this strength card is I feel like usually with the tamed lion, we would expect for the lion to be like quiet or docile or whatever. And this is a lion that speaks. And this is a lady that knows. This is a lady that can trust the lion. Right? She's not wrapped lion. There's no like collar. And she's not like shushing or quieting the lion. She's almost providing this like silent encouragement. And so it's a strength that's meant to be used. And so maybe in using that strength, maybe the Nine of Swords is like, did I do too much? Am I doing enough? Blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's like a picture of the internal, because maybe in the past, the lion went overboard, right? And now you're like finding this new sweet spot. And maybe that's why it's this seahorse, Ace of Cups at the top of the deck, because the male seahorse is the one that gives birth rather than the female seahorse being the one that gives birth, right? The male has the babies in the pouch or whatever. I don't know how seahorse anatomy works, but they pop out of the male. And so that's the kind of like, maybe it was something in your past that you tried to hide for whatever reason. Or maybe it's something that you're trying to put distance between you and yourself for, and it ends up being the key to your success moving forward, right? So it's again, it's that whole like, it's not what you think. It's maybe not necessarily the standard whatever either, right? Maybe there are plenty of people with a background like yours that aren't considered for something, but because of who you are and how, like, there's something different about you that makes what could be perceived as a liability actually an asset. And it's an asset because you know how to use it as such. Not, it's like, it's how the tool is used. It's not the fact that the tool is there. You know what I mean? I don't know necessarily how to communicate that in another way. You do something special with the thing, even if there are multiple people of the same background, same proficiency, same whatever. And it's that uniqueness, it's that you allowing yourself to be whatever that makes it work, right? Because it's not a lion on a rampage. It's not the untamed lion that's allowed to just wreak havoc, but it's not also the lion that's so sedated that like you never hear it. Cool. All right. Now the cards that I pulled, I set aside, and I just put them back into the Tarot of Dreams. So I have to shuffle those in as well. Final card. Cool. Cool, cool. The King of Cups just did a fairly smooth fall. She's giving Hopper a little bit. Okay. Bottom of the deck is the Five of Swords. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's no sun and there's no moon here. On the Five of Swords, this is also Venus and Aquarius, the Five of Swords. You see the glyphs of the planets on his fingers. there's no sun and there's no moon. Now, we just saw Sun in Aries on the Three of Wands and Moon in Sagittarius with that Nine of Wands. Also, the High Priestess is ruled by the moon. So we saw the moon on that. The Ace of Coins is under this Five of Swords. What's interesting about it's almost like with this Five of Swords, the connotation of the Five of Swords is usually one of an overwhelming force. Well, the Five of Swords is an overwhelming force, and the connotation is usually it's one that is used in like petty ways, but petty in terms of like applying much more force than is necessary for the task. Right. So it can extend into almost like a bullying um, energy. This Five of Swords is giving me more overwhelming force than like strictly the bully. And it's like this sword could be wielded in one hand, but when used with two, you can't like much more force can be created or applied. And on these hands, we see the planets. Right now, these swords, it feels like there's the sword of fire, the sword of air, the sword of water, and the sword of earth. But this sword, it taps into like celestial energy rather than elemental energy, for one. This reads like someone who answers only to themselves. And so they know they must hold themselves accountable with this King of Cups energy. And like in some way, shape, form, fashion, or another, we all answer to somebody. Even if it's the turning of the wheel, the divine circumstance itself, right? A meteor could collide with Earth at any given time. The sun could do something and like flare and just roast the Earth at any point in time. Or it could, I don't know, dim and the Earth could freeze overnight. Like there are always circumstances that can whatever, but energetically, this is someone, it reads like someone who knows that they have to be their own sort of anchor because they could do so much. And like It's almost like the Priestess, Three of Cups, Palace of Coins, because like there were limitations in place so that people don't people divine energy, so that humans don't human up the divine, basically. And again, it's because the Ace of Coins and the Seven of Swords and the Three of Cups, there it is. That with no face. It's because the Ace of Coins is here with this Five of Swords that it's like a lot of what they want they could take. Energetically, maybe even. And this King of Cups is almost the reason why they're allowed to like be incarnate with that kind of power, because they would never do the things that they shouldn't do with it. And again, it's pure self regulation, I guess, self governance. I don't know. Take it if it resonates. Tell me if it doesn't. I feel like we can get further into that, but why? We are in the territory of final cards. This is the end of the video. It's the end of the video as we know it. The video, the video, the video, video. Let's see if we get a luminous warrior final. There's fire again. Fire in the rainbow. The element of fire again. Cool. Many paths, number 34. Many paths and the sacrifice. 3444 and the Tree of Life 58. Interesting trio. Well, interesting duo. Many paths and the sacrifice. Because it's almost like some of these paths are sacrificed. But in some ways, to choose one thing is to inherently not choose others. It's almost like, um, you know how they say, like, jack of all trades, master of none? It's like to master one trade is to sacrifice a certain amount of proficiency in others. And like those are the many paths that are sacrificed in order to attain or achieve something. Right? And I guess if we go off of the last one, to be in a position where like one answers only to themselves and to be trusted with that King of Cups energy, because the King of Cups, it doesn't transgress against another, right? with that Ace of Pentacles, like it doesn't take, it creates, or it barters, or it whatever, right? I don't know why, like, do no harm, take no ish. Just came into my mind. um, but it's almost like to be in that energy is to sacrifice a certain amount of maybe just like emotional freedom, right? To the point where like, sometimes you want to just like be angry and like do something crazy. It's like if you can cause a lot of damage, then like you probably shouldn't like ever. You know what I mean? Because the consequences can be so drastic or dire, or because so many are affected, right? Like if you are responsible for the finances of a huge organization, you may not be able to afford a gambling addiction like someone that doesn't have as much power and authority. Because if you start to gamble the company's money, then it's a lot different than your own personal money, right? And now you're putting the livelihood of many people at risk and not just your own. It's almost like that kind of sacrifice, or like a kind of like vow of some sort to not misuse whatever. So anyway, that's what I got with I don't know. Take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. It is what it is, and it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. So I guess that's it. I hope y'all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, and way you find. And until next time, keep on keeping strong. It's interesting though, because the nine of wands is one of the significators that I want to look for, and it came out. I have this whole like thing in my mind. You know what I mean? We saw the nine and the three of wands in the um, tarot of dreams, just like we saw the nine and the six of, or the three and the nine of earth in the good tarot. Does that mean anything? I don't know. I guess what's interesting about that is because in the nine of wands, no, because in the eight of wands, there was the three wands, and then the two wands. In the suit of fire, it's a more multiplicative, additive energy. And in the suit of pentacles, it was an exponential energy. And usually, because earth is so much more dense than fire, you would expect it to be the other way. But maybe it's because earth is slower that things like that matter. Maybe it's because earth is slower that it's in an exponential energy. Because fire, nutrients for a fire are consumed a lot more quickly. So it can afford to be additive or multiplicative. But like because earth takes so long, when we see a mighty harvest, we know it's because of all of the effort that was put into it and maintained or and sustained. the speed or momentum, I guess, speaks to its requirements. Girl, I don't know. I don't know. I tried. All right. I'll catch y'all later. Bye. 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 Bye.